And welcome to the Midday Show. I am Jeff Everett. He is not Mark Messina. We have a couple of
Nope.
special guests on today as we continue our 12 days of giveaways. Day 7 already. Christmas is getting closer and closer and closer. Do you want me? This is a good question. Do you want like the grandioso entrance, or would you
I would
like to
love to hear how this introduction would go. I've heard one already, right? I've heard one already, but it's been a while.
This is the original James in our family, in our generation, the first, the OG, the only Clifford James. How was that?
Yes, that was pretty good. That was pretty good.
Pretty good. So to start off today, just so you know, we're continuing the 12 days of giveaways. Like, comment, and share on this video to have a chance to win on Monday. You can do one or all three. The question of the day today, if you're looking to comment, everything Christmas music. The biggest debate of all is when should you start playing it? And then if you want to, tell us your favorites, dive into it. Who do you listen to? How do you listen to it? What are the songs? What are some of your non-favorites? What are the ones that just beat you over the head and you're kind of over them? You brought up there's really only one true wrong answer.
One bad answer.
We will get to that because that is very, very true. I ask Mark every day, and now I'll ask you. Cliff, how are you feeling today?
I feel good. Working in the construction industry has been a nightmare for the last 6 months with the supply chain issues. So like the fact that it's Friday before like a pretty big holiday break when all the all these projects and stuff kind of like take a quick break. It's gonna be good. So I'm feeling good this Friday. How about you?
I'm good. I know you keep up with the show, which I truly appreciate. You can see the movie characters around you. You can see the movie characters around me. I don't know if you saw the movie show or not. Do you have a favorite Christmas movie before we dive into today?
All right. So I think I have two categories, right? Like there's my personal favorite, which I would argue like probably isn't most, right? Which is Gremlins. I'm a big, and as you know this, right? October is my favorite month for multiple reasons. That newer Krampus one from 2015 is probably a close second on that as far as my personal favorites. I think though the best one it's gonna be one of the Christmas carols, right? Because that's just a story that evolves, right? As a kid, it's one of those stories where it's like ghosts and it's a little bit creepy. As an adult, you start understanding the the labor undertones of like that time, and it's classic, right? Everyone's got stuff, nostalgia, right? Like it hits the nostalgia. Here's your past, right? It makes you appreciate the present and the people that rely on you, and then there's like the future, right? What kind of legacy you're leaving? You can't go wrong with that. I think that's the best one.
So we've had the debate on here last year about Die Hard and whether or not that was a Christmas movie.
I don't know.
Gremlins. I know Gremlins though falls. Gremlins gets overlooked because of Die Hard. Like if Die Hard did not exist, the debate would be Gremlins, whether or not that is a Christmas movie. Go ahead and since it's one of your favorites, go ahead and defend why Gremlins is a Christmas movie.
Well, so number one, it takes place over the Christmas holiday, right? So all of like the scenes and stuff like that, you're going to see Christmas decor in most of the scenes. I mean, I remember being a kid and just like watching that movie and being like, this is the first Christmas movie that has a body count. And for some reason, like as a kid, freaking loved it. It is slapstick, right? But like one of the scenes, is, this woman is anti-Christmas, right? Like, so she hates Christmas. Like every time you see her early in the movie, she's bah humbugging everything. The Gremlins kind of mess with certain things within her house, and it's a humorous death scene ultimately. And but what triggers it is like she hates Christmas carolers, so they're trying to so they start the Gremlins are outside like singing some corny like Christmas song, but they can't talk, right? So it's not kids. Like so there's so many things like that like take part like with certain Christmas traditions. Like there's a scene where they're like making Christmas cookies and it gets all messed up. Right. So it's definitely for me a Christmas movie. Like there's aspects of the movie that like are revolve around like certain Christmas traditions. Plus the Mogwai, right, is a gift in the beginning of the movie. Like he's a gift, right? So that's Christmas.
No, there a lot of valid points. You'll appreciate this because I was arguing with Mark about this. It's amazing more horror movies aren't based around the Christmas time of year because there's something about the There's something about the old music, kind of like the gospel
Mhm.
music, that can become very creepy if used the right way. There's
Yeah.
something about like candlelight, candlelit rooms, things like that. There's something that can be very manipulated for the horror genre around Christmas time. It gets
So
dark earlier, just everything
yeah.
involved with it.
So one of my favorite pieces of like trivia is Halloween movies, right? But one of the major influences for John Carpenter's Halloween was actually the first teen slasher movie. He gives credit to is Black Christmas, which I think came out in the early
Okay.
70s, and it is a teen slasher movie, with a bunch of girls that live in a house, and there is a like serial killer / predator that's in the house. And again, it takes place over Christmas. It's called Black Christmas. And that was one of his bigger inspirations when it came to writing the movie Halloween.
Okay. No, it makes a ton of sense. I'm going to do a couple of promos here. You're going to stay with us before we dive into this everything Christmas music. We already have a couple of comments on it. Again, in order to win in the 12 days of giveaways, you can like, comment, and share this video to win on Monday. You can do one or all three. A couple of things that we have on the docket here. First, if you've seen what's happened in Kentucky, obviously the tornado victims, they're still trying to piece together what they're going to do. We have started a fundraiser for it. We are about a quarter of the way to our goal right now. We're going to keep doing this all the way up to Christmas Day. So if you have the opportunity, you can go to the GoFundMe. We also have it on our website, NorthcentralPa.com. You can donate towards the Western Kentucky Tornado Fund, and we are just trying to help out, do what we can, because I cannot imagine. We talked about it on the show the other day. It's a horrific thing if it happens any time of the year, 2 weeks out from the holidays. This time of year, it's colder. It's just harder to kind of piece everything back together. It was going to be an absolute disaster no matter when it happened, but it just kind of exacerbates everything that it happened when it did. So if you're fortunate enough, if you're able to, please consider giving to the NorthcentralPa.com to raise money for the Kentucky tornado victims. 2 videos we have coming up. The first one we are going to release on Sunday. We actually talked to Justin Silverstrom of South Waynesboro and his longstanding tradition of Christmas lights. Anybody who has been through Southside this time of the year, they have gone through Candy Cane Lane. We're going to release a video that was done by one of our fantastic reporters. Melissa always does a great job. And then Phoebe did the video. Again, always a great job. So look for that on Sunday about South Waynesboro and the tradition of its Christmas lights. And then on Saturday morning, we're getting back into it. It's that we're getting closer and closer to those New Year resolutions. I'm curious, Cliff, your opinion on yoga. We can dive into that. But Saturday morning, a new yoga video, Moving Through the Holidays by Emma Downey. So if you're looking to get loose a little bit, stretch out a little bit, and have an opportunity to kind of jump in to getting fit here in 2022, Saturday morning will be your opportunity to do it with NorthcentralPa.com and Emma Downey. Are you a yoga person? Have you done yoga?
No, and it's funny because like the reason that I give myself for not doing yoga is actually the reason I should probably do yoga. Right? It's like I'm just like my mind is always racing. It's too busy. Like like I don't like sitting around in silence and breathing and stretching. It's just like my mind, I feel like will go nuts, which is probably the exact reason I should be doing yoga. I've never heard that yoga was bad for anybody. Right? Like I don't know if. Like, have you ever heard a story where like yoga was like, ended up being like a bad thing for someone?
I've told several people, and I tell my girlfriend Hannah all the time, it is the thing I miss the most, like from the physical aspect of college sports. I don't necessarily miss the practices or the games, or like I found other ways to kind of, we used to do yoga 3 mornings a week. And that is the thing I miss like the most. If I could get myself into gear and convince myself. So maybe 2022 is the year to finally do it.
Did you guys pair it with like a walkthrough, like meditation thing as well? Or is it just going through the stretches?
So it's funny. I don't know if it was from the athletic perspective or not, but ours was more about like controlling your breathing.
Yeah.
So it wasn't so much the mentality of like positive thought or slowing down your thoughts, but it was very much like in control of your cardiovascular, maintaining your breathing and that side of things.
Right.
Yeah. So it was interesting. I enjoyed it. Everything Christmas music. When should it start? What are your favorites? I think you're in the same boat as me. my household, Christmas music always crept up sooner than what I thought it should.
I mean, so you obviously know our fam. We. So first, personally, there's a week in July where I'll start cranking some Christmas music, right?
Sure.
Just to kind of get me into the zone of a particular weekend, the Christmas in July weekend.
There you go.
Thanks to Kimmy, there's no Christmas music that plays in our house until after Thanksgiving, right? Which is fine. Like that, early December. And I think, you and Mark were kind of talking about it, I think a couple shows ago, like, I don't listen to the radio, right? I don't think and if I do, it's usually, I'm usually listening to Philly sports, right? Radio. So I'm not getting bombarded with Christmas songs early, so I feel like, especially in the last couple of years, now that we're also shopping mostly remote, I don't really hear Christmas music until like that post Thanksgiving. Growing up, however, was different, right? My sisters, they would start Christmas music probably in October. We had a black cassette tape that was labeled Xmas, and honestly, like, I just made my dad a Spotify playlist of that exact tape, because that tape would go in like end of October, and that would be what my mom and my sisters would play every weekend when they were like vacuuming, cleaning, or we were just like doing things, and they just wanted music in the background. That black Christmas tape, which had all those like 80s and 70s like Christmas rock songs, right? It had Queen, it had Elton John, it had Bryan Adams, like it was like all of those like classic 80s rock ones on this cassette tape. And those were usually started in October.
This might be our first tangent. It is amazing. Streaming services, for me personally, have made Christmas music so much more tolerable. Oh, yeah. Because just being able to kind of curate your list of get rid of this Christmas song, add this Christmas song, and just kind of being able to piece together your ideal 30, 40, 50 song playlist of Christmas music completely altered Christmas music for me.
Absolutely. Yep. No,
completely changed.
My dad was literally just like, hey, I missed that Black Christmas tape. I remember us putting that in, and I was like, we can make that tape like right now, right? So I went on Spotify, made that playlist. He was super pumped about it. So
yeah. Oh, fantastic. Yeah. So Debbie's the first one. She's with us after Thanksgiving. In a typical year, I am a Black Friday is the beginning of the Christmas holiday season. So that is the first time where I myself will proactively put on some Christmas music. And even after that day, it takes me a week or two to really like play it consistently. But that's when I'm in on it for the first time.
Yeah. I think I was just about to say, I think the other thing with like Christmas songs is, to your point, and thank God for playlists, right, that we have on, for streaming, because you start at Thanksgiving or like Black Friday by that first week of December, it's like, come on, I've heard all these, right?
Yeah.
So if you have, but now, Christmas with these streaming services, different genres, right? You have country Christmas, you have rock and roll Christmas, there's hip hop Christmas. I was just, we were doing the one Christmas Power Hour, and there's like a Little John like Christmas album that I had no idea about, and it's crunk, it's insane.
Yeah, there's this new. I'm sure you've seen it on YouTube. It's almost it's Christmas covers, but everything's modernized. Have you seen this trend? And that, to me, that's really interesting. This modern take on these different classical songs, like that, I really enjoy. Almost a little too much.
Yeah.
All of the old Christmas songs. I am best song for King and Country, Little Drummer Boy. So there is an aspect here, and Mark argued about this, because Mark's belief is there's not 10 good Christmas songs. Like, they just don't exist. I don't know if there's 10 good ones or not. However, I do think when you take in the gospel side of it, when you take a religious aspect of Christmas music, there has to be over 10 good Christmas songs, because there are some classical religious Christmas songs that are good. Like, they just are. There's no getting around it.
No, there's like with so many genres of music, like I mean, you can make comedy your own like kind of genre of Christmas song, right? Yeah. like one of my favorites right now is Jason Segel and Jack Black did the little drummer boy did a cover, based on the and they did like the whole thing. It was like Bing and David Bowie, right? Like when they kind of did their mashup, they kind of like did a recreation of that. They made it animated, and it's great, right? But like that kind of falls into not only rock but like comedy, because they kind of made this little like comedy sketch with it as well. I mean, Grandma Got Run Over by Reindeer. Is that rock? Is that, or is that comedy? Is it like just a, country comedy song? Like, so no, there's easily, I think, 10 good Christmas songs.
I totally agree. Lisa says Holly Jolly Christmas, the Burl Ives version only, accept no imitations and listen to Christmas music whenever the spirit moves you. I will say the spirit usually does not move me before Black Friday.
And honestly, like Christmas is and maybe it's just because I only remember a few very specific white Christmases, but like it was 70 degrees yesterday. You know what didn't move me? You know what didn't move me yesterday? The Christmas spirit. It did not move me, right? We were literally driving downtown, and I was just like looking around. I'm like, oh my gosh, I feel like I should get my fishing stuff ready. Like I feel like April is upon us, right? Like that. I was not a Christmas move.
I left practice. It was pitch black by the time I leave practice. And there were people like in their reflective vests walking in like t-shirts and shorts in Williamsport, Pennsylvania. I think it was 65 degrees. It was pitch black out.
Yeah. Like, and again, I just remember like playing football Thanksgiving outside and freezing, right? There being like flurries everywhere and just freezing. And then it just being cold, right? So like, yeah, like, I mean, whenever the spirit moves, I agree, right? Like, and hey, this is America. You can listen to Christmas music whenever, thanks to streaming services, right? You can play Christmas year round. However, I think the last few years, it's been taking me a little bit longer to get in the Christmas spirit, just because like the weather hasn't been conducive to making me feel like it's Christmas time.
No, I cannot disagree with that at all.
Yeah, the Christmas season is kind of like spring. It's turning to like mud season, right? I just feel like everything's always muddy. Everything's kind of brown.
Did you get any of the memory stuff on like any of your social media? Because I believe this is 1 year ago was the huge snowfall last December. So I got to see everybody's like memories, the 1 year relapse of it. And it was, I remember it happening, but until you see the photos, you forget. I mean, it was 2 feet of snow. Legitimate 2 feet of snow.
No, it's funny because just 2020 and 2021, honestly, like a blur for me. I mean, they really are. I mean, so I'll have to go back. As you know, I got rid of Facebook and Instagram and stuff. So I'm kind of social media free right now. Like the show here, I keep up with on YouTube actually. But no, I haven't had any memories or anything like that pop up. So I guess that's one of the things I guess I'll kind of miss a little bit with social media. But honestly, since I've been unplugged with it, it's been good.
Yeah, no, I'm sure it helps. There's definitely positives to it. You'll like this. So this is, in case you don't know, this is the hardest part of hosting the show. There are times when people comment and you don't know who is commenting. So they're kind of this anonymous figure. Somebody says, bring back Mark, who is this Clifford guy? And they had the fortune of being anonymous.
That's okay. I mean, these are big shoes to fill, right? As we were talking earlier, I was like, should I put on one of my Cowboys jerseys, right? And then I was like, it's... try to get into the spirit of Mark as much as possible. However, unlike Mark, I'm a normal human who appreciates, Disney animated movies that are written well, who understands that there are 10 good Christmas songs. But
his take, did you watch the show yesterday? I'm putting you on the spot a little bit.
I did not.
Okay.
No, yesterday I was bogged down with
yesterday, Mark was I was in the minority for sure. I don't look at people's hands to see if they wear a ring.
Like when you just go out,
it never crosses my mind that if I want to know if someone's married or not to look at their hand. So Mark just was flustered by this, the idea that you wouldn't look at somebody's hand to know if they're married or not.
I mean, so this was kind of predicated on also like being single, right? Because like I would literally tell you right now, like I don't look at people's hands at all. But then again, I'm married and I don't know why.
Sure. Do you wear your ring?
Yeah. The silicone ones.
Okay, you have one of the silicone ones.
Oh yeah, my the first ring there I had, which I still have, it's a tungsten, and dude, that thing, That thing's a problem. It's heavy. And honestly, when I noticed the biggest issue with it was playing with kids, right?
Okay.
As you know, I love getting into the fun uncle mode all the time.
Sure.
They don't even need to be my nieces and nephews. I will get down on a kid's level. And I usually go with the make fun of them to their face kind of thing.
Sure.
To first see if they understand sarcasm. And then most of the time with little kids, like they don't, but they just love that you're giving them attention. But I would be playing with like, my nephews and my nieces, and all of a sudden, like they would be crying and I'd be like, oh, what happened? And then here I kind of find out like, oh, as we were wrestling or something like that, like I hit them with my hand that had the ring on it, and that thing came in like a hammer. Right. So, the silicone ones they're awesome though. Highly recommend them if you ever get to a position where you feel obligated to wear a ring. But it's not always. I mean, I know Kimmy doesn't wear her rings all the time.
Sure.
Right.
That's so you don't have to pay for drinks.
Oh, I don't know if you remember your sister's wedding. We went out that Friday night beforehand, and one of our cousins came over and was very mad and wanted to break up Kimberly talking to a couple of gentlemen that were buying her drinks all night. And I yelled at him and said, if you mess up this bar tab that they have going for her, I will be very upset with you. Right. And I understood where he was coming from, but at the end of the day, I was like, they just did their third shot. That is not on my tab. I'm so okay with this.
This is working out for me.
Worked out.
Joe says, check out Mannheim Steamrollers holiday music sometime this season. Yes, you're a listener?
Yes, agree.
What am I missing out on?
Just very, very well put together music, right? And I feel like, I know Mannheim Steamrollers just because of mom and dad. Like they had a cassette of theirs, right? Wasn't as good as the black cassette tape, but it's good holiday music.
Very sweet.
I'm actually a big fan of and again, this is probably just from our upbringing, the Irish Christmas music, right? Like Irish Rovers. There's like not only a nostalgia thing, but like they kind of make me just want to grab a Guinness and just like when I'm listening to them, just kind of hang out, right?
Sure,
it's good Christmas music.
There's some, whether it's the Irish Rovers or even like there was that real big kick for the sea shanties.
Oh,
remember that kind of?
I was a big fan. Big fan.
There's something about 4 or 5 guys in a repetitive loop that just works. I don't even need them to be singing.
Right.
I just need them to be.
It's the energy.
Need them to be kind of cheery and on the same chord.
It's the energy. So right before COVID, so it was October 2019. We went to Ireland for a couple weeks, and let me tell you, we thought we were going over there because, it was on the list for a while. We had some things planned, but we were really pumped about that time of October because we were like, Samhain is an Irish thing that people brought over, turned into Halloween. So we were thinking that no, middle of October, everyone full steam ahead Christmas, right? We went down to Temple Bar, Dublin. Everything was Christmas, and the energy, right? One of my thoughts where I was like, if you had a channel where you just had live streams of the bars down in Temple Bar area in Dublin and just live streamed, like just the energy within these buildings. I'm sure you'd get, easily into like the, 25, 50K views, maybe during like shows, like it gets up. Just the energy in those places is just fantastic.
So if I was having a Christmas get together, instead of like the Yuletide log or like the fireplace, just the stream, I could stream the actual like downtown.
Oh, just
Dublin.
The people hanging out in the bar. You have a couple of cameras, like bartender view angles, where you get to see like, and then you have the other angles where you get to see bartenders working and just, the one day we were so hungover and we still went out to the bars just to hang out because like that energy was a hangover cure. Like just people were into like the holiday spirit. And here it was like not even November yet. And it was awesome. It was fantastic.
That's pretty great. Cindy says Christmas songs a few days before Christmas all day long. I don't know if I can do a full day though.
It's tough to hear a full day of music. Right? Like, just a whole day of music in general. Like that's a lot of music.
It's
right?
hard. Yes.
Yeah.
Usually gets split up with a little TBS Christmas story. But now even that's becoming hard to keep on.
It's so good though. I mean, I will watch it once on Christmas Day, but
Yeah.
it's so good. It's just that scene at the Chinese restaurant. I'm surprised it hasn't been canceled yet, right? Because that's 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 on the border. That's on the line. But I laugh. I mean, I literally laugh every time.
Oh, every single time. You
Yeah.
can't not laugh at it.
Honestly,
We have a coworker. Sorry, we have a coworker that lived overseas, and one Christmas they thought they bought a Christmas turkey, and then when they actually like unwrapped it, it had a big long neck, and they realized they had bought a Christmas goose.
Yep.
So very similar thing. It wasn't smiling at them, but it was close.
And you want to talk about like having a completely different taste and like cooking prep. I mean, geese, like cooking a goose, there's a lot of grease, right? There's a lot of oil and grease in that. Like the flavor profile is incredibly different as well. But you do it right, and it's still delicious. No, I was about to say one of my favorite lines, literally in a show or movie, is actually, and it's cold blooded. It's the Disney version of the 80s Disney version of A Christmas Carol with Scrooge McDuck. There's a line, and I shake my head and I laugh every time because as a kid you don't pick it up. Is he walks up to the building and the Scrooge and Marley signs up there, and he's like reminiscing on Jacob Marley, and he's like, "Oh, died, however many years." And this line gets me every time. He breaks the fourth wall. He even looks at the camera. He's just like, and when he died, he gave me money for a tombstone. And he looks into the camera. He goes, and I had him buried at sea. And I'm just like that to this day. That is one of my most cold-blooded lines in a movie ever. It's so good. It's so ruthless. It's so Scrooge. Yeah. It's awesome.
But I mean, that's what's great about animation, right? Is you can get away with those things, and a lot of people don't notice. I thought you were going to say the Dwight Schrute when he talks about the goose grease on The Office.
just him talking about prepping a goose at the Benihana's wherever they're at. Yeah, it's so good.
That's where I thought you were going with that. Last thing before you go, Laura brings up that wouldn't happen if he had the ring sleeve. So yesterday, I'm curious on your take on this. Maybe Josh will have one too. I've said, I don't know if I can do the ring because I'll fidget with it. Like I'm going to be distracted if I ever have to wear one. So I said, I would rather get the tattoo. Like I'd rather just get a tattoo of it. And then there's nothing for me to play with, mess around. Of course, one of the first comments was, what if you get divorced? So I brought up that actually might not be a bad thing because every time you get remarried, you have to get a ring further down. So essentially, I mean, the first one maybe isn't a red flag, but eventually you would have, like, if you got divorced 4 times, people know that you've been in and out and, not calling out anybody who's been divorced several times, but it would be interesting if people had to wear the ring sleeve.
It's funny because, like, to your point, like, it's not in my nature to look at someone's hands when I'm talking to them either, right? Like, that's why I never understood why, like, different types of socks are, like, a big hit, right? Like, oh, you have, like, socks that say this, or I have socks that did, and I'm just like, who's looking at socks? Like, who's doing that?
Well, I told Mark yesterday, it's like Shawshank when he takes the brand new shoes back to his cell and he's wearing them and no one notices. And shoes, cars, like if people are wearing a ring, like call me oblivious. I just never notice it. I just never see it.
That's a great little detail about that movie too. I mean, we could talk about that movie forever and how many little writing details in that movie make it amazing. But yeah, like that's just something that like I'm not looking down at someone when I'm talking to someone, I'm looking at them. But it would be hard to miss a ring sleeve. Like it would be hard to kind of miss because people do kind of talk with their hands, right? And all of a sudden you just see this like line of things on the one finger. Like you can't probably help but see that. You just go, oh. Okay.
Yeah, it would happen. Here before you go, Shikellamy at Montoursville tonight. It sounds like Joe's going to cover it on WBRE. Messina is coaching. He is the head coach now for the Montoursville Warriors. Before you go, your best Ted Lasso advice. What would you tell? I believe Mark's 2 games into the season. Give Mark a little bit of advice. Give him a shout out before you head out.
Remember, it's not growing the talent on your team. It's about growing the kids on your team, right?
There you
go. I mean, what do we have a record? Is he 2-0? Is he 1-1? Is he 0-2?
They're very young. I don't know if they have a win yet. I know they've been in every game they've played.
Other thing, remember, losing a basketball game does not physically hurt like losing a wrestling match, right? Right. Like it's, there's and at the end of the day, it's about, growing these young boys into, young men. That's the key. Right. And coming up with adversity and coming through, like being those young guys, like one day they're going to be, like the older guys, right? They're going to one day be the seniors, right? So like showing them how to take a loss will also help them, take a win with respect, right? Okay. But you want to talk about like coming through adversity and, maybe taking your lumps early. I can't wait to catch up later on Josh here when he comes through and get to hear some of his story and background and where his future plans are. So
yeah, sounds good.
But on that note, I do need to run.
Yeah, I might clear your name and just put Ted Lasso up above it after that. That was good. Thanks for joining us.
The show. It's the show we needed, right? It's the show that 2020, 2021 needed. If folks, if you haven't seen it yet, try your best to find a way to watch it. It's a great writing. And a lot of life lessons in there, right? Yeah. So
it was the show we needed for 2021. Thanks for coming on. I appreciate it. I'm sure it's your first time. I'm sure it's not your last time. Run to the vet. Take care of what you need to take care of. Appreciate you coming on.
Tell Hannah I said hi.
I will. Before we bring on Josh, just a couple of housekeeping things, just some reminders. If you're fortunate enough or you're able to, please help us out in helping out the Western Kentucky Tornado Fund. We are about a quarter of the way through our goal of $1,000. We've reached out to some sponsors and different people to try to match it as well. So if you're fortunate enough, if you're able to, you can go to our GoFundMe. You can find us by searching NorthcentralPa.com on GoFundMe.com, or you can go to our website, NorthcentralPa.com. You can actually just search Kentucky Tornadoes and the asset will come up and you can click on the link to help out. And again, one last reminder, we have some different things coming up on Saturday morning. If you're looking to get in on your resolutions early, we have a new yoga video coming, Moving Through the Holidays by Emma Downey. So again, you can get fit here. You don't have to wait till 2022. You can start in 2021, get a jump start on it. And then last but not least, anybody who's been through South Lanesport, it's all about the Christmas lights. If you've ever been to Candy Cane Lane, we have a video coming Sunday. We're going to talk about the longstanding tradition of Christmas lights with Justin Silverstrong, a story done by Phoebe Ferrier and Melissa here at NorthcentralPA.com. And now we're going to bring on, I'm excited for this, we're going to bring on a guest, Josh Bowie. Did I get it right, Josh? I hope I got it right this time.
Yeah, you killed it, Jeff, man.
I appreciate that. All right, we got Josh Bowie with us. Josh is a graduate of Lycoming College. He is a comedian. How do you want to say this? Up and coming, startup. How would you describe yourself?
Oh man, I don't put too much emphasis on that. Like I performed at the Cellar and in New York and with David Tull, people like that. But I'm just chilling, bro. I'm just happy to do what I love. That's it.
Yeah, just trying to figure out how to navigate it. You have a show coming up. Let's get that out of the way, and then we'll do it again at the end. But I want to make sure that we get everybody to know. You have a show coming up, HBG Comedy Zone. It's going to be December 21st, Tuesday, 8 p.m. You're going to headline in Cumberland, PA. And is this because we don't know each other? Is this your first headline, or have you headlined before?
Yeah, I headlined before, but this is I guess you'd call it my home club, even though I'm from Philly. Central PA is where I really claim my home, the comedy wise.
Okay. Yeah. So I have to ask the question at NorthcentralPa.com, Lycoming College. How did we get there? How did we enjoy our time? How did it kind of lead you to where you're at now?
All right. Well, how did we get there? I was a wrestler, and Roger Krebs, the most legendary dude, honestly, not just in D3, but I think in all of wrestling right now. And he had a kid named Tommy Flynn on his roster. And long story short, Tommy Flynn's from he went to Bonner, and at the time I was going to a school that was in Delco, and through that pipeline, he let me know how everything was, and him and ended up being the fit, Can
we go back to Delco real quick? What school were you at in Delco?
I went to Upper Darby.
No, you did not. I spent some time in the Upper Darby.
Get out of here. I was about to cuss.
No, I did. Listen, I spent a Christmas in the Upper Darby.
Oh,
I
what?
did. There was a really good basketball player that ended up playing at Mansfield University. Her last name was Fitzpatrick.
Okay.
I don't know
I
if that
don't
rings a
know.
bell or not. Really good basketball player at the time. Ended up being down there for a little bit. So yeah, I've been to the Upper Darby. I have experienced the best of the Upper Darby. So that's funny. As soon as I hear someone say Delco, I always have to know what part of Delco they're from.
I feel you. That's typically how it goes, man. You also want to make sure you identify the right Delco people because you hear Haverford, goodbye. You know.
I knew there was a catch. I knew that you have to be very like specific when you talk about Delco. Just real quick, like I'm in college. You were there for 4 years.
Yeah, all 4 years.
And you enjoyed your time. How did you go from that experience at Lyco to kind of diving into stand-up comedy?
Well, to be honest, Lycom and like they did everything in their power to just, really work with me, and it's one of the reasons why I was able to stay in school and not be like one of those like stories where I would have loved to be like, yo, I dropped out, pursue my dream and made it and
Sure.
F all this. But like I think having a degree and still the ability to pursue my dream is like something I definitely don't take lightly. And I just had great professors and like Dean Bolt, Professor Welch, just really sitting there and work with me, understand what I'm trying to do.
Nice. So I told you before, I wouldn't quite call myself a stand-up junkie, but I watch more than probably the average. Like I'm probably in like the 80th, 85th percentile in actually watching stand-up and trying to keep up with it. What I really like to watch is I like to watch the journey. So if I
Yeah.
see somebody I like, I try to find their earliest stuff because I want to see kind of like where they started, how did they progress, and what does it look like now. So starting out, what were some of the challenges? And this is a very broad question, but what were some of the challenges in starting out as far as like finding a style? What like did you know what you wanted to talk about? What was kind of the feeling the first time you went up there? All of those kind of like getting started typical questions.
Honestly, the only difficulty that I ran into like starting early was just getting up on the stages because I started when I was like 16, so a lot of the bars and clubs they were like 21 and up. So I used to have to lie or get the older comics to kind of be my parent to walk me in the club. But once I hit the stage, it was like love at first sight,
Is there a nervousness when you walk up, or were you always did it feel right?
I'm freaking out like days and weeks before the show, but once I put these headphones on, do my walk around the venue, in about 10 minutes, sun just locks in and it's time to go.
Yeah, and so for you, this is I don't want to call it a calling, like that's corny, but for you, like this is very much like when you're up there, there is certainly a home feeling, kind of like yes, like this is what I would like to be doing.
Yeah, it's honestly, not to bring any spiritual stuff in here, but it do almost feel like spiritual. Like I feel my intuition, my heart, everything. Like this is my journey. This is what God left for me.
Yeah. So this will be the most fun part for me. Role models, inspiration. Who were the guys you were watching? Who are the guys that you think maybe you kind of model off of? Are there people that you've watched do this before? I'm curious to hear because it's such a broad. I think stand-up comedy gets pigeonholed as like everything's closer to being the same than what it really is. It's so much broader than people realize when you really watch the full spectrum of it. What were some of the people you were watching growing up that really made you like love stand-up comedy?
Well, Joe Coy is definitely like I love each of these comics for individual reasons, So Joe Coy definitely broke down the game and showing of like where entrepreneurism is like very prevalent in this stuff, and we have to do it. Dave Chappelle, like clearly, like that's the goal, and we get a lot of comparisons. He started when he was 14. We both skinny as heck, So it's like. But my personal, like my all-time favorite is Paul Mooney, man. He just said how it is and just was always truthful,
He has a bluntness to him that's very hard to duplicate.
Yes. Yeah.
He does. I've said before, I agree with you. Chappelle is the GOAT. I've argued that with people several times. However, with Chappelle, like you can imitate Chappelle, like you can do your own twist of Chappelle if you're good enough. It's really hard to do movie. Like it's just hard to do. That bluntness is very hard to kind of. You have to have a very. I said the same thing about Patrice O'Neal. Like, I think it's hard to replicate O'Neal because it was just kind of like he just said what he meant and it was there and you just had to take it. You had to deal with it.
Yeah, I mean, just what helps with that, I think those comics like realize is because all of us want to be liked. You know, we all want to be liked by everyone. You know, even if we say we don't, we really do. You know, but once you get over that and you just like, what really matters more in this moment, getting the truth across, or being liked for something that I'm not. You know.
So this is a loaded question. What are, like you said, is it important to get the truth across or not? What is some of the truth? Like, what do you find yourself wanting to talk about? Like, what are some of the truths that you find kind of leading you down this path?
So clearly, like politics, the state of like our nation, I don't think anyone's really happy right now,
No.
For real. And I think we're stuck in this thing where we always try and choose like whatever we think is like the lesser evil. And sometimes I just want to like just remind people, and I'm talking about people. I've been in Texas, Austin with the most conservative, and I've been in like Denver, Colorado, New York City with the most like liberal. And one thing I love about being in PA is like, dude, we experience it all, because we all work together. Like we're small communities and different personalities, opinions, whatever, but we make it work. And that's what I want to show to the world a lot. Like, I don't have to be me versus you, or, like because you stand this way, you're automatically wrong. It's like, let's both sit back and realize they're playing both of us, they're messing with both our heads. Yeah.
I got to listen to a clip you did, and I thought you did a clip of you started off with Trump and you ended with Biden, and I thought that idea of like both sides are playing us, and it's really up to you to realize that. What you do about it, I'm not really going to get on you, but I felt like your sentiment was kind of like you have to at least recognize that regardless of which side of the aisle you're on, you're kind of getting played a little bit.
Yes. Yeah,
that was how I took the clip that I got to see. And I thought it was very clever and very well done. I just, going back to Chappelle, we talked about his most recent special. We did probably like 20, 30 minutes. We kind of dove into it a little bit and tried to talk. For me, I'm assuming you got to see it and you dove into it.
Yeah.
I thought it was maybe the most important show he's ever done. I thought for stand-up comedy, I thought it was probably the show we needed in that moment. And it wasn't even that I necessarily agreed with all his points. It was just the idea of the open dialogue and being able to call a spade a spade. I was just curious if your kind of take on it and how you felt about watching it, because it was the frontline news for about a solid 3 weeks here, a month and a half ago.
Yeah. I mean, look, you could tell clearly there's some truth in like to what Chappelle said. I'm not going to come up here and say he's 100% right. Just like George Washington, when he was signing off his letter and stuff, he has this quote that I love, but he says, "I'm unconscious of intentional error." So that always reminds me like no one's perfect. So when I say that about Chappelle, I do think he said a lot of truth, and it has to be something that Fox and CNN could agree on it. Like. If they agreed on something there was needed. So that's how I feel. He definitely brought light to a lot of things we wanted to say.
Yeah, no, I think it was needed at the time. I talked to you a little bit before the show. I'm just curious about your process, because one of the conversations I've had with family and friends is like, if you had to do stand-up comedy for 10 minutes, like you got stuck, like if they pulled you up from the crowd, and you had to go up there, what would you do? Like, what is the thing that comes to mind or whatever else? So we would always talk about these different stories and how we would try to mold them and like on the moment. What is your process? How are you walking down the street and do you see something and you have that Seinfeld moment of like, well, that doesn't make any sense? Or is it more scripted? Are you more is it deeper than that? What's your process to all of this?
It's honestly a little bit of everything, I spent like a lot of time, like even before I hit the stage, you know, when I was like 12, you know, 13, spent a lot of time like studying the game and really making sure I understand all that's needed. And even from a writing standpoint, so I'll like write on loose leaf like Jerry Seinfeld. Then I'll write in my notebook, you know, kind of refine it, and then I'll have my set list on the index card when it's time to go work out the info. But I do also understand like working out the improv skills, you know, crowd work, you know, everything's very deliberate practice. Everything's very intentional, you know. And especially like I know being like a black comic and stuff, people expect me to go out there, loud energy, do this, yada yada. But it's like I don't want to just be that guy or be known for that. I want to show everybody like I'm a comic. I want to hang in with the best, you know?
So it's so funny because it's whether it's sports or comedians or actors, whatever it is, sometimes when you compare like people that look alike, you get locked into that. But it was funny because the very first skit I ever watched of you, reminded me of Michael Che. And it had nothing to do with the appearance of both of you. It had everything to do with Michael Che is so calm. And you you get drawn into his delivery because of that I don't want to call it silence, but that just the calm tone of him. And you get drawn into what he's saying. And the first time I watched you, I said his delivery reminded me of Michael Che. That was literally the first thing that came to my mind. And it's funny that you just said that.
That was the first Michael Che comparison I ever got, you know.
Okay.
And it's just crazy, but I feel like I am so dark on this screen. I feel like
you know what I think it is? I think it's the window behind you, so the light is making it seem darker than what it is because it has to bounce back off of the screen.
Yeah, I'm trying, but this, no.
That's all right.
So let me.
That's right. Listen,
there
it is. That works. Here's the other thing too. If you're okay with it, it won't be your last time on the show. So people are going to get to see you again if you're okay with it.
I would love to come, Jeff. You're the best, man.
I appreciate that. Like I said, I don't know if I'm a stand-up junkie, but I watch a lot of it. So I enjoy talking to people who are brave enough to kind of dive into the art of it. What is your number one fear? Because I don't know, you're early enough in your career. I can't imagine like flopping is your number one fear, but like what is kind of like, is there a fear to this?
Yeah, my number one fear is being stuck in a bubble that I know I can't like maintain, you know? So with a lot of like comedy, how people meet you the first time is who they're stuck with in your brain. You know, just like everybody else, we have good days, we have bad days. You might see me on a good night and I'm the most friendly comic and you're like, I love that guy. And the next time you see me, it might be a bad night and I'm kind of roasting the crowd or probably talking a little bit more angry. And I don't want people to be like, he's a bad person, where it's just like, no, I'm going through stuff. Allow me to change a pivot into that, you know?
Right. Cliff and I were talking before the show, after you and I did the pre-show, and we were talking about maybe the most overlooked aspect of this is when you see a comedian do a show, it is not the first time they're doing this material. Like the energy that they're giving you is very much a part of the performance because there's a good chance they have done this dozens, if not hundreds of times. So part of it isn't just being funny. It's the willingness to kind of like get up and energize yourself to do it for the 85th time.
Yes.
Do you find yourself, do you have like a trick to kind of combat that, or how do you handle that?
This is the most humbling thing you'll do. Like you'll be reminded it's a job real quick and that energy need to be picked up because even if you know the material and you think like, yo, these jokes hit their money, you know, if they don't work, you'll realize, oh, I didn't bring the energy this time. So you're like, I gotta, okay, you know, I bomb, I gotta bring it for this joke no matter what, you know? Yeah.
Do you ever feel like you're dragging the audience along?
Oh no, I'm not that guy. Trust me. I want to put a good show. If it ain't working, I tell them, I'm like, you got bad days at work too sometimes. Like that's how it is, you know.
I once heard Ricky Gervais once said, he goes, I know I did a bad show if I felt like I had to drag the audience along with me. And that has always stayed with me with that. That was how he judged whether or not he put on a good show.
Yeah, I mean, Ricky Gervais is definitely one of the more self-aware dudes in the business. So I love him. Yeah.
Fantastic. How about you? Who's my favorite?
Yeah.
I'm trying to think. I don't know if I have a favorite. So you'll get a kick out of this. I used to take long road trips to Erie, PA. It used to take me 4.5 hours, 4 hours, depending on where I was leaving from. Yeah. And at that time, there was no Spotify. Pandora barely existed. I'm a little older than you, I'm guessing. So what I used to have was I had these burnt CDs, and I had Bigger and Blacker by Chris Rock. I had some really old school Carlin burned onto some CDs. So that was what I used to, when I got sick of listening to music, I would listen to the old Chris Rock HBO specials. I would listen to Carlin. The very first stand-up special I ever watched, I was in a hotel room in Vegas. I was probably 13. I was barely a teenager. My cousin and I, who was just on the show, we watched Robin Williams live on Broadway on HBO in a Vegas hotel room when I was like 13. And it was the first time I'd ever watched stand-up. And I remember I was glued to the television. I could not look away. A, just what is this? And B, Robin Williams he's so animated, and it's so fast, and it's so witty, and it's so out of this world. I think for 13-year-old me, it was a challenge trying to keep up with it, but it felt like I was watching something I wasn't supposed to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I could definitely get that. Because there's a complex of yo, you're I understand what's going on, and I could comprehend some of these subjects, but it doesn't feel right at this age to be into this world, But once you get over that and you realize comedy's for everybody, it's the people's art,
It was funny. It was Robin Williams, because in the skit, he's making fun of Bush, he's making fun of Cheney, he's making fun. He's calling out these different. I think he called out R. Kelly in that one. So he's calling out all these different aspects from politics and artistry, and I just remembered kind of being shocked, oh, you can make fun of the president. You can make fun of our and that was the first time it dawned on me that you can tell the truth in a manner in which you can be funny that makes it easier to accept the truth of what is happening. And I just remember 13-year-old me being fascinated by that. I just thought that was the coolest thing that was happening. So that is how I kind of got kickstarted that way, and that has stayed with me forever. So I don't know if Robin Williams is my favorite, but he is certainly the most influential for me personally.
Mm-hmm. No, I get that, man. Without him, there's a lot of things that will be lacking in our genre, man. He definitely made it cool. I think he paved the way for people like Andy Kaufman. He paved the way for people to really just be themselves outside the box. So,
in the other part of it too, and I'm curious. I think there's comedians where everything has to make sense. So it has to fit into this box, and I want people to understand what's happening. You could watch Robin Williams, and for 30 seconds, you might not know what the hell's going on. And that was okay. It didn't matter. You were just watching somebody work through it. And that is, to me, that was very special. Something very unique to Robin Williams.
Bro, I'm sure the same sentiments. Trust me, we could sit here all day just talk about how great Robin is, because it's he is, and that's why him not being here is definitely a hurt piece that we feel day in and day out,
Yeah, it's funny. Have you gone back and watched any of him since his passing?
Not so. I haven't watched any funny related content, but I would love that scene with him and Matt Damon, and it's a motivational thing for me, so I see that pretty often.
It's funny going back and watching him now, whether it's in Good Will Hunting or the old stand-up stuff. You can see the parts where he really excelled, whether it was emotional scenes in movies or even in a stand-up, just kind of you can tell that there's somebody there, not somebody that I want to say was struggling, but it does all make way more sense in the context of his life now, that he was so on, in Good Will Hunting, and that in his stand-up, there was no downtime, because downtime meant you had time to be sad. And so it was, so it is the irony of going back and watching it now. I'm not saying it was easy to see at the time, but going back now, it all makes a ton of sense when you watch it.
Yeah, it's definitely I mean, not to be cliche or whatever, but what they say, like some of the most comics are like the most depressed people. And I think if you look at whether it's Greg Giraldo, you know, Mitch Hedberg, you know, the list goes on. It's we good at masking our pain, you know.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And like I said, finding humor in that truth, right? To make it easier to swallow. So
Bingo.
I agree with you.
Yes.
Hey,
Yes.
do you want to stay with me here for a second? We have to do 3 winners for our giveaway. Can you stay on for 4 more
Hey,
minutes?
let's get it done. I want to celebrate with
All right.
them. What are you talking
All right, let's
about?
do it. So again, just a reminder, 12 days of giveaways. Today's day 7. In
Yeah.
order to win, you can like this video, comment on this video, or share this video. You can do one or all 3. If you do that on today's video, you get a chance on Monday to win. Today's winners did that on yesterday's video. So be sure to do it on today's video. You can start off Monday as a winner. If you do that, you get a chance. Okay. So here's how it works. Usually we have a big wheel. Mark is not here today. So what we do is we have 3 predetermined gift cards already. But what we're going to do is we're going to pick our like winner, our comment winner, and our share winner. Josh, I'll let you pick. Which one should we start with? Like, comment, or share?
Let's go comment.
Comment, good choice. All right, we're going to spin it. And out of all of our comments, our comment winner is going to be Laura Haynes is our first winner. Laura Haynes, it's a good one. Not like the underwear though, right? I think Haynes the underwear is Henes. I think.
Yeah.
So not that. So Laura's our first winner. Like or share, Josh?
Let's go share.
Share's a good one. We're going to spin it. Share is the path of least resistance, Josh, in case you didn't know. More people like and comment on the show. So if you're bold enough to share, that's your best odds to win. Today is Nina Browning is going to be our share winner.
Congratulations,
there's also
Nina.
Yeah, Nina's crushing it. There's also a boldness to sharing, Josh, because you're essentially admitting that at least for like 30 seconds, you stuck around and listened to me blab for the day. So sharing is bold.
That isn't a bad thing, though, Jeff. I think this was a good day to start my day, you know, or a good way to start my day.
I'm with you. And then the last one, we have our like winner, and that is going to be, I'm going to say it's Steven Schelleman. I hope I'm saying that right. Steven Schelleman. Again, for all of our winners, you'll be reached out. Most of you have received the Facebook message already in your inbox. We'll drop that into the mail once you get your address. If you haven't checked your Facebook inbox, be sure to do so. Respond to us. And if you just won in the last day or two, your message is on its way. We'll be reaching out to you so that you can get your gift cards here heading into the holiday season. Is there anything that I have forgotten, Josh? Is there anything you want to say? Do you want to? Let's plug the show one more time. Can we do that?
Yes. The show is happening at the Harrisburg Comedy Zone, December 21st. That is a Tuesday at 8 p.m. And this is a show that isn't like, it's going to be a great show, but what the significance behind this show is that it's our way to just, you know, showcase the talent that has been brewing in this area. I mean, you guys heard of like the Shane Gillis, you know, the Kevin Harts, but I mean, we've been doing a really good job to develop, and, you know, one of us will be next. It's no doubt in my mind, you know.
Awesome. I appreciate it. And just the only thing I ask of you is that you, at some point, I want you to come back on, especially like as we move forward through 2022. There's got to be some topics moving into, because like the reality of it is with cancel culture, there's going to be stand-ups in the news. It's just, it is what it is. So just promise me when stuff like that happens, you'll come back on. You'll chat it up with me about some of that stuff.
I will. And Jeff, before you go, I just wanted to give a shout out to someone that, like, you know, really meant a lot to me that we kind of lost recently. And y'all shared it on this page. Louis Cruz. He is a Williamsport native. I really love Louis, and I just want to say, Louis, you're always with me, man, and just thank you for being one of the best people in Williamsport for me.
Well done, Josh. Appreciate it. One more shout out, date and time, location for your show.
December 21st, Harrisburg Comedy Zone. Is at 8 o'clock. It's going to be a great show. Matt Moyer hosting. Greg Nolan is going to be a special guest. Eddie Daniels featuring, and I'll be headlining. Josh DeWay.
Awesome. Appreciate it, Josh. Also, I want to mention for you a simple plug. Really easy to find on YouTube. Josh DeWay, DWEH. You can find some clips, 3-minute, 5-minute clips that give you an idea of what you're getting into. I sincerely enjoyed most of them. Josh, thank you so much for coming on. And I don't get to talk about stand-up, like deep dive into it very often. So I love today. Really appreciate you coming on.
I really appreciate you, Jeff. And I'll be back. I promise you that, brother.
I appreciate that. We'll talk to you soon. Thank you guys for watching the Midday Show. Thank you to Weiss Markets. Be sure to go there for all your grocery needs. Help out our title sponsor. And be sure to go to NorthcentralPa.com for all of your local news. I'm Jeff Everett. He's Josh DeWay. And thank you for watching the Midday Show.